How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of my complete Wes Craven DVD and Blu-Ray collection. If you haven't seen part 1, we did Last House on the Left from 1972, all the way up to A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. If you want to see that video, at the end of this video, there'll be a playlist on the bottom. You can click that, and you can find the first video in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to be covering each movie, but I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys know basically what these movies are about. We start off with the third of 4 made-for-TV movies, Wes Craven's Chiller, with Patrick Servino in it, and you get Wes Craven doing a soulless 80s businessman. You see, this guy was frozen right as he died, so that in the future, if they ever found a way to cure him and bring him back from being frozen, he could be back alive again. Of course, there's a mistake at the power plant. He accidentally comes unfrozen too early, and they just barely save his life, but he seems different. If the body comes back, is the soul obligated to return? And the biggest problem with this movie is the release. Every version of this movie is a bad VHS rip, and it really makes it harder to watch this movie than it should be. In fact, there's the quality release, but I have a different release. This is a double pack, Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart and Wes Craven's Chiller, and I bought this just on the off chance that it would be a better copy, but no, it's not. And even it was on Amazon Prime for a while, and even that copy was pretty bad picture quality. I really wish someone would fix it. Maybe Scream Factory come in, do a double pack, Wes Craven's Chiller all cleaned up, and then the first disc version of the fourth made-for-TV Night Visions. I would love that, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, up next, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. This movie was filmed before Nightmare on Elm Street, but it wasn't completed, but then Wes Craven's name became super big with The Nightmare on Elm Street, and they padded the movie out with recycled footage from the first one and released it. Now, it's not near as good as the first. Wes Craven himself hates it. I found it to be pretty fun. You get the girl from the first movie, and no one knows who she is, and she goes with a team and the dog, get Beast coming back. She goes with a team to do an ATV race, and on their way to the race, they take a shortcut, which is near where the family was from the first movie, and you see that Pluto has survived, and there's more members to the family this time around. Overall, pretty cheesy, not near as good as the first, but I did have some fun with it. It's not as bad as people say, not near as good as the first, but not as bad either. Open it up, there's the text against the black background. But yeah, some pretty cool, big, creepy buildings, ATV chase, pretty cool. Up next, a movie that was actually kind of hard to find, so I only have the disc-only copy. This is Wes Craven's Deadly Friend. A boy falls in love with the girl in his neighborhood. The girl dies, but he's studying robotics and decides to use his robotics to bring her back to life. He had already made a robot friend, BB, so yeah, just put BB into her, save her life, but of course this is a horror movie. It all goes wrong. This is a pretty cheesy movie. Not really sure what happened with it, probably just studio interference, but pretty cheesy, but worth watching alone for the basketball scene. But yeah, Wes Craven doing a cheesy movie. And speaking of cheesy, since this is disc only, this is my hand-drawn with Sharpie version of the cover that I made a few years ago when I first got this. Not my best work there. And the basketball I had drawn on the back in reference to the famous basketball scene. I need a real release of this movie, not just a disc only, but it was kind of hard to find. I'm not sure if it still is. But go from cheesy to underrated. Wes Craven doing a movie about zombie powder, real-life zombie powder. The Serpent and the Rainbow. Really do dig this cover. Him coming out of the grave, ship on fire. And yeah, it's about the guy that went down to Haiti to find the real zombie powder. Now, of course, heavily embellished for being a movie. I'm sure the movie elements and the surrealism didn't really happen. But hey, based on a true story, actually shot in Haiti. Pretty cool. And one of Wes Craven's more underrated efforts, and hey, an actual voodoo zombies movie, kind of rare after Romero to actually have a voodoo zombies. Moving along to a cheesy movie, Shocker, No More Mr. Nice Guy, although he never was really a nice guy, but that song really does play in the movie. This was their attempt to make another franchisable character, another Freddy Krueger. Obviously didn't quite work out, but still kind of a fun, cheesy movie. This guy, on the testimony of this kid, goes to the electric chair, but before he dies, he prays to the TV gods, and when they electrocute him, his soul goes into the electricity, and his ghost can travel through the electric wires, and he can also possess people, and there's a really fun finale scene to this movie that I really do like. Overall, cheesy but still enjoyable, not his best effort, and you can see why the guy from Shocker didn't become a franchisable character like they wanted to, but still interesting enough and worth a watch, but more on the cheesy side than the good side, but fun enough. Moving right along, and you notice a pattern, cheesy, underrated, cheesy. Now we're back to what is probably Wes Craven's most underrated movie, The People Under the Stairs. I mean, everybody knows Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream, but big Wes Craven fans really insist that this is one of his better movies and not enough people talk about it. You get a young lead, and he's in a house that he's not supposed to be in, and the people who own the house are actually Twin Peaks actors, and he goes to the basement to find some pretty creepy imagery, and of course the titular people under the stairs. A pretty fun, crazy movie where you really don't know what's going to happen next. It's been a few years since I last watched this, and I'm really due for a rewatch, so I should watch this sometime pretty soon. Really good, classic Wes Craven that sadly gets overlooked. Moving right along, Wes Craven returning to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy in the movies, plays a real-life version of herself who gets haunted by Freddy Krueger in the real world. You also get real-world versions of Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, and a real-world version of Wes Craven himself. A pretty fun shake-up to the series. Wes Craven wanted to make this as a sequel much earlier, and they thought it was too meta for the time. I think it actually works better after Part 6 once this franchise is bigger. It really makes the ideas of this movie have more of an impact, more of a pop. And hey, Wes Craven doing a meta slasher, this is an important piece of work that would get us to Scream. But before we get to Scream, we have Eddie Murphy coming to America, but this time he's a vampire. This is Vampire in Brooklyn. Eddie Murphy is on a ship, and everybody in the ship is dead when it drifts into harbor, kind of like the 1970s Dracula. He makes himself at home in America, gets an assistant, and falls in love with the cop lady. But yeah, kind of funny, Eddie Murphy coming to America, but this time it's a much darker horror story, and he's a vampire. It still has a fair amount of comedy in there, but it's more horror than I thought it would be. And I think you get Eddie Murphy playing a few different characters in this one as well. So kind of interesting where it has similar concepts to the Landis film, but this time it's dark and scary. Overall, not the greatest film. I really do need to do a rewatch. I remember this being okay, but not the best. But maybe I'll appreciate it more. It has been similar to a few of these. Been a few years since I've seen it. Might pop that back in. Up next, Scream, the 5-film set. For those of you guys who know Scream, you may be going, there's only 4 Scream films. Well, this set from Miramax includes Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Still Screaming, and Scream the Inside Story. And we flip it open, Scream, Scream 2, and Scream 3, and the 2 documentaries. And really cool to have feature-length bonus features. I really do like that. 2 documentaries. They share a disc, but that's fine. Disc art there is pretty cool too. But Scream, you get the teenagers who would be in a horror movie in the real world when a slasher killer comes after them. They have to use their knowledge of slasher movies to escape, and Scream, Ghostface there, is a big horror fan, and I do like that it is based on a real-life Halloween mask, based on Edward Monk's The Scream, and they still sell it to this day, even though it's been years and years since Scream 4 came out. They still sell the Ghostface mask in stores around Halloween time. I really do love that it's always there. Even the Jason mask, which is the second most common, a lot of those aren't officially licensed, and it's really cool. Scream 2 is a good follow-up. The characters, the mystery's back, and this time you get Stab as a movie within a movie based on the first movie, so it's even more meta. And then you get Scream 3, which is the worst of the series, but also shows that Wes Craven is a really good director, because this movie was made, they were shooting it before the script was even finished, and even though it is a little bit of a mess, the fact that it's only a little bit of a mess really shows Craven's skill, that he was able to pull this thing together. But yeah, again, a third wave of killings, more mystery, and more meta commentary, but just a few weird elements. But between Scream 2 and 3, Wes Craven did Music of the Heart. Meryl Streep plays a music teacher in a nice, somber movie, but not really horror at all. Wes Craven trying to do a change of pace. Not really what a lot of his fans wanted, but hey, 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Actress and Best Original Song. So hey, it's something there, but not something that Wes Craven fans tend to care too much about. But an interesting side piece, but not really what I care too much about. Anyway, after that, Wes Craven's Cursed with Christina Ricci in it, a werewolf film with some self-awareness and some comedy, trying to do, what Scream did, but heavy studio interference, unfortunately. This is the unrated version. I was hoping that would make it a little better, but it's still not great. Some of the actresses, I think Christina Ricci herself, has said that they shot enough footage for 2 movies, and I think that there is a good cut of this movie out there. Now, unfortunately, with Wes Craven's passing, we can't get a director's cut, but I would love to see a different version of this. Hey, even just release the straight 3-hour cut. I'd be interested in seeing the 3-hour cut just to see what's there. But I would love to see a new cut of this movie to try to get what it's really supposed to be like. But for now, the unrated version is the best we got. It's okay, but not great. There's a little bit of humor in it, which is cool, but it's just not quite there. But hey, Christina Ricci, Wes Craven, it's something. But I would love to release the 3-hour cut for this. I just want to see what Cursed is supposed to be like. Moving along to another underrated Wes Craven movie. This is Red Eye with Rachel McAdams and Colin Murphy. So basically, you get this girl, she works at a hotel, and this guy comes up to her, you think is a normal guy who likes her. Turns out he is going to kill her daughter if she doesn't move this important politician to the other side of the hotel. And it's one of those movies where, you think the audience thinks and goes, oh, the character should do this. And in this movie, the characters either do this or come up with something even more clever. For a movie this tight, it is a tight thriller, no supernatural stuff. If they didn't do it right, and then people would have been going, they should have done this, they should have done that. But in this movie, the characters think of pretty cool stuff, and I really do like her solution that she thinks of at the end. And it's a pretty cool, really tight thriller with, clever writing, and I really do like this movie. It's, again, one of Wes Craven's underrated movies. Up next, we have Paris Je anthology movie, I believe, about Paris, directed by like 26 different directors. Again, like Music of the Heart, not something I cared super much about, but especially this time where Wes Craven is just right there, not too big involved in this. But I found this really cheap, and it was as a steelbook, so I figured, hey, I need it to complete the Wes Craven collection. It's cheap, it's a steelbook, I'll go ahead and pick it up, and it's 2-disc as well, but again, not something I care super much about. Anyway, moving on to My Soul to Take. Again, like Cursed, this is one that was kind of killed by studio interference, but you get this serial killer, the Ripper, And when he was killed, a bunch of mothers suddenly went into birth. You see, the killer was said to have split personalities, and the rumor the kids take is that all his different personalities went into these new kids to be reincarnated, and then 1 year on Ripper Day, the Ripper decides to come back and try to pick off all the kids. Not the best movie. It is kind of a little bit messy, and some parts do come off as cheesy and not really that great. But it's okay, you know. And, you know, Wes Craven's second to last movie, last original story. It's okay, just not the best. But anyway, moving on to the very last Wes Craven movie, Scream 4, a belated sequel, but they got the whole cast back together: Ned Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and once again, we're trying to figure out who Ghostface is. With a new generation of kids, you get Hayden Panettiere in there from Heroes, playing the new nerd character, who turned out to be one of the best characters. They should have used her a lot more. But again, Ghostface is coming back, solving the mystery, and it's not the best thing in the series, but, you know, it is really, really good for a belated sequel, and turns out Wes Craven's last movie, quite sadly. This was a Blu-ray copy. I found a disc-only copy of the DVD, so I stuck that in there in the sleeve so I'd have dual formats. But, yeah, pretty cool, and I really did like it. But anyway, that's the final film, Scream 4, and that's the end of my Wes Craven complete collection. Quite a few interesting things in here, and I really had fun shooting this video. Quite a big collection. My castle set's getting pretty full. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist down at the bottom if you want to see more, including part 1 to this video. I think it'll probably be my complete director playlist, where I have a John Carpenter complete collection, Rob Zombie complete collection, and not a complete collection, but essentially for Don Coscarelli. So a pretty cool set here. Really good movies from Wes Craven. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day.